that it's really easy to get kind of discouraged when you're listening to the news, feeling like there's just too much to do. But I think just realizing that those small impacts that we can do have a cumulative effect that is quite large. And whether that is composting or planting a few native plants or just being more conscious about where we're spending our money, it all stacks up. And I think that's a way to not feel overwhelmed by it. It's just kind of like, what can I do today? Just one thing today that's like a step in that direction. And that's also not just sustainability, but also self-sufficiency is something that's very important to me, and just like empowering people to feel like they do have the ability to control where their food comes from, have food security by learning like homesteading skills that our grandparents knew how to do that we've forgotten how to do, like canning.
This episode of Grounded in Maine is sponsored by ESG Review. ESG Review magazine is published quarterly in February, May, August, and November, and is available for free in print and digital formats. ESG Review is devoted to environmental, social, and governance strategies, technologies, and investments. ESGreview.net is updated every Wednesday with 8 new stories and is home to feature articles, news items, and more. Visit esgreview.net to stay informed and help us spark the collaboration and awareness needed to develop sustainable economies and communities around the world.
There's a place where there's no trouble, no more pain, no more struggle.
Grounded in Maine podcast is an open conversation about how we show up for the world. I started this podcast out of a desire to learn new ways to be sustainable because the word sustainability is big. It can be overwhelming, and I just wanted to learn, different ways to try to be part of the solution and not feel like it's too late. So I'm talking to people who are doing different things and learning so much. I hope you are too. Hi there. Thank you so much for listening to Grounded in Maine today. My name is Amy Fagan. My guest today is Lauren Landers. And Lauren I started following on Instagram. Her Instagram handle is Zero Waste Homestead, which of course got my attention. And so I've been following her and just, interacting with her. And finally I just said, would you come on the podcast? And she said, absolutely. And I did not know, however, until we were really talking, that she's actually an educator in the sustainability field. So I kind of got schooled, and it was amazing. Like, she just knows so much about so much. So this is very educational for a lot of us, I hope. Anyway, Lauren is very, very interesting, and she is so super smart, and she's very passionate about a lot of different sustainability things. So I hope that you guys enjoy this, and we will get right to Lauren. Today, my guest is Lauren Landers. If you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen Lauren on Instagram as Zero Waste Homestead. So Lauren, thank you so much for being with me today. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm good. How are you?
I am doing fine, thanks.
Good.
Zero Waste Homestead is very intriguing, but you are a homestead, and you said you are a low waste, but your goal is zero waste, right?
Yes. Yeah. And there are many ways to define low waste. So just kind of, reducing my impact as much as possible, and just kind of hopefully inspiring people to be like more sustainable and more cognizant of the natural world. So, yeah.
Right. And one of the things that I'm sort of realizing in my head as I'm learning all this stuff is that, and just talking to people, is so much of it is like, it's like in our heads, like just being mindful. Like, what are you buying? What are you throwing away? What is there another way you could manage that? That type of thing. It just seems like a mindfulness thing. What are you purchasing? Stuff like that. But I love that you say it that way, that you are you are working toward that and just trying to be as low waste as you can, because it's I'm not going to say zero waste is impossible, but it's good to be realistic and and to also just be real. Like right now we're not zero waste, but we are 100% trying, and we are getting better every day because we are trying.
Yeah, definitely. When I started Zero Waste Homestead, initially the goal was 100% zero waste. But then I started realizing like it's hard to do completely zero waste, depending on where you're living. Like if you were living in a city and you're right next to a bulk food store, it's much easier than if you're like living further away and you have limited access to different grocery stores and there's not a lot of bulk food options. You can only do it as good as you can do with what's available to you. But I think the important thing is making that conscious intention to reduce impact as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm curious, do you make a lot of things?
I do. I make a lot of my beauty care things. I've made like soaps and shampoos and stuff. I also do a lot of food preserving and make most of my canned goods. I've gotten really into fermentation, so I like make my own sauerkraut, and that's probably my favorite thing is fermenting. But I do make. I haven't gotten into sewing so much yet, but something to do. But yeah, beauty care and food related food preservation kind of things.
That's awesome. I mean, they're like the major things when you're on the younger side, right? I mean, the beauty care because you want to protect your skin, and
Yeah.
knowing that you're going to be outside working, you want to definitely protect that. And also eating is obviously important.
Yeah, they put so many different things in different products. I watched a documentary a couple of years ago. It was really like inspirational for me. I think it was called Stink or something, and it was just about the fragrances that they put in a lot of body products, and that just was kind of really eye-opening for me. And I went through my cupboards after that, and have been very conscious about what I use fragrance-wise
Yeah.
ever since that. Yeah.
You did a big clean out.
I did. Yeah, I think there was an app that you can kind of scan the labels and kind of it tells you what's in there. And I forget what the app is called, but it gives you like ratings of like how red or green that product is, and just kind of clean out your closet.
Cool. Oh, wow. That's interesting. I know that, oh gosh, I know walking my dog, I smell the laundry, the dryer sheets. You can smell
Yeah,
them in the air, even though you're like, I don't know, 200 yards away.
yeah,
It just hangs in the air. And it's harsh. You just think if you're closer than I am, that must be really, really hard on the nose.
yeah.
I forget how strong it is until I smell it when I'm walking.
For sure. I've definitely noticed that I can notice it more when I go to like a store and can like go into like the cleaning aisle. You can smell it like just so strong. But
Mm. You almost
but
want to wear a
you can
mask.
do yeah, you can do a lot with just like vinegar and baking soda. You can make a lot of products with that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Do you use a lot of essential oils?
I don't. I like the concept of them, but I have cats, and I know that there is a question of the safety of essential oils around cats. So I just kind of err on the side of caution. I use it a little bit, like in the bathroom when it's just me and I have the door closed, but I don't put it in any of the products that I make.
Hmm.
I know that there's hydrosols, which are, I think they have different components. I haven't really gotten into that, and I can't really speak to the safety of that, but I've heard people say that that's a better alternative for people that have pets.
Oh, hydrosols?
Yeah.
I have never heard of that. I thought that it was certain scents that were harsher on their systems, but I believe you better than I believe me. I have a bad
That's
memory.
true. I know there are some people that use the products on cats and dogs, and I don't know. I love my kitties, so just we'll go scent free.
I'm not testing on you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to find out the hard way for sure.
No.
And so, but you make shampoo.
I do. I use well, I've done the vinegar wash. I've done Castile soap based products. Is kind of what I'm using right now. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you make your own Castile soap?
No,
Or
I
you
don't.
buy that?
I buy kind of the in bulk Dr. Brommer's one and use that for a lot of things. I use that in hand soaps and body washes too. So,
Awesome. That's cool. So you do like a liquid, you make your own liquid shampoo?
yeah, and I make my own laundry detergent. Yeah. Keep myself busy.
That's awesome. That's one of my goals. I've got to figure out like a good laundry soap. And I really want to do like a shampoo bar. Um, and I
I
haven't,
haven't tried those out yet. I'm curious also.
yeah. I use a shampoo bar. I use a few of them. I've only found one that I really, really like. Um, the rest of them make my head break out.
Yeah. With the laundry, I've been using when I don't get my stuff together enough to make a batch of laundry soap, I use the sheets. They're plastic-free sheets, I think by Earth Breeze. They have a scented and an unscented one, and I've always had really good experience with those. So it's a
Right.
good baby step into the plastic-free laundry world.
Right. Yeah. And I've used the kind sheets. So same idea.
Yeah.
Um, and man, that's so easy.
I've done the soap nuts situation too. I've been experimenting.
Have you?
Yeah.
Um, and somebody told me, so I think it's the same person has told me twice. So I follow the Zucchinista. She's in Germany, and she said that, oh gosh, chestnuts. I think it's chestnuts you can use for laundry soap as well.
Interesting. I haven't heard that. I heard English ivy has a saponins or something in it. So I've seen people washing their hands with that. It's just gets a little sudsy.
That's so
Interesting.
fun.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, I don't know. I just want to figure something out. Right now I'm just using, we have a refill store in my town, and so I'm using that because I'm I'm not going to say I'm lazy, but I just don't take the time to do that. But I am making soap. I'm making soap.
Yeah.
I really want to figure out shampoo bars and laundry soap. Those are my big ones. And we were supposed to talk worms. We were going to talk worms too.
Okay.
Because
Yes.
I really want to. Do you know how to raise mealworms?
Um, I haven't done it. I have read about it. I used to have chickens, so I know that I've seen people kind of build mealworm houses out of just like plastic stacking like storage drawers, and they just kind of keep the mealworms in there. And I think they use just kind of like a bran base, and then the mealworms just go about their life cycle, and they just kind of scoop the beetles out and move them kind of up the tower. But I haven't done it myself. But no,
Mm.
people have had success.
Yeah. That is another one of my goals. So these are things that I've like this is one of the my goals for the podcast. Like I want to find someone who's going to teach me how to do these things because I have a hard time with YouTube. There's so many different videos and people telling you, and every way is different. I'm like, but I want to find the best way that's going to work for me, and I don't want to try.
Yeah.
I don't want to test it. I just want to find the good way.
How to
Um,
do mealworms.
yeah, because I just bought some. I've been ordering, and so we just canceled our Amazon Prime.
Okay. Big
Big
step.
big step, big step. And I was ordering mealworms 5 pounds a month for like $35, and I just bought some. It was like a pound and a half at the feed store, and it was $40. So it was more than 5 pounds through Amazon.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like I have got to figure out how to raise these guys.
Is this for chickens or bird feeders? Okay, chickens.
No
Yeah.
chickens. They love them.
They love it.
They do. And they're spoiled. And that's my thing. I like to spoil them.
Yes.
So I can't take them away. I just have to figure out how to either afford them or how to raise them.
That's the
Because
way.
I
Yeah, the
cannot
chickens
do $40 for a pound and a half.
chickens need what the chickens need.
It's true. But so you have a worm compost as well?
I do. I've been vermicomposting for a number of years now, and I use that kind of supplementally to a bokashi bin indoors, and then I have an outdoor cold compost pile. And that setup I've been using that setup for a number of years, and I feel like that works because with the worm bin and with bokashi, you can compost indoors all winter long, and then you can compost the bigger things like yard clippings and leaves outdoors in a cold compost pile, and just kind of combine the two. So yeah.
What's the fancy word that you're using?
Bokashi is it's a ancient Korean technique of composting indoors. So you basically have a bucket, an airtight bucket, and you use an inoculated bran. It's inoculated with a beneficial microbe. And then you put your kitchen scraps in there, and you sprinkle the bran on top. And and then you close everything up. It has to be like airtight. And it basically ferments the food in there, kind of like it's the same process that makes sauerkraut. It's a lacto fermentation process. And that creates an acidic compost that basically looks like the food scraps that went in, but structurally it's been changed. So you can then put it outside in your garden. You want to wait like a total of 4 weeks before putting plants near it because it's acidic and it needs the pH to neutralize. But the kitchen scraps are no longer as attractive to pests, so you're less likely to have like coyotes digging in your garden if you pre-compost it with bokashi. And bokashi also breaks down the food scraps a lot faster than other composting methods. So I really like that one. It fits like right under your kitchen sink. So
Like your worms.
yeah, both of them are very convenient. Good for people that don't have a lot of outdoor composting space.
For sure. Yeah. And that's what I love. That's why I love the worm bin, because people can do that anywhere. If you live in a big city, you could still do that. And, people say, I don't have a garden, I can't compost, or I don't have my own lawn, I can't compost, but you can do a worm bin and use that, the worm castings for like container gardening.
Yeah, and houseplants. And yeah, composting in urban areas, I think, is going to be I think more people are catching on to it. I think a lot of people don't really realize what the impact of just throwing food waste and lawn clippings in the trash is that when these organic materials are broken down in a low oxygen landfill, they don't break down properly and it releases methane. So these food scraps are basically contributing to climate change. Whereas if they break down in an aerobic with air environment, like a compost pile, they're not going to release those methane. So there are just so many benefits of composting, whatever method you choose. But one of the big benefits is it's combating climate change.
Hear that, folks? Do it for
Yeah.
me because I don't like the heat. Do it for me.
Yeah. But you also end up with great compost for your garden. You can reduce your reliance on any kind of fertilizers. Plants that are grown with either worm castings or compost are shown to be healthier. They're more naturally resistant to pests and diseases, so you're not going to need to use pesticides as often. You can also use compost as a mulch for weed suppression, so it also replaces herbicides. A wonder product. Yeah.
Well, you heard it from Lauren. You heard
Yeah.
it.
And I just actually wrote a couple things about worm casting, so I'm kind of all fired up about it. There have actually been some studies recently about how worm castings help plants, and these are university-based studies. I've linked them on my website if anybody wants to check out. I forget what the actual university was, but they've shown that worm castings can help fight damping off, which is a common plant disease on seedlings, especially when you're growing seedlings indoors. Worm castings have also shown benefits of preventing a powdery mildew on plant leaves. So you can make like a foliar spray out of worm casting tea and then spray it around, and just a lot of benefits.
Huh. So what does that? Well, how does it do that?
The worm castings have beneficial microbes. So by kind of covering up the plant leaves, it makes it hard for kind of bad guy microbes to even have space on the plant leaves. It's just taking up space. And the damping off, yeah.
The bad guy microbes.
Yeah.
We're talking Amy language now.
Yeah, there's the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, and worm castings have the good bacteria in them. So yeah.
Awesome. And so if you guys didn't catch on, Lauren actually is a she's a writer and she has a blog as well on her website. So she's got a lot of she does a lot of writing about sustainability. Aha.
I do. The website zerowastehomestead.com, and I also do gardening and sustainability writing for a couple other websites. So I'm always talking about this stuff.
Mm.
And I've also started branching off into the YouTube world. So, but that's a new addition.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow. So is that like how to, or is that
Yeah. Yeah,
cool?
I've done just short little videos, little things that I think it's easier to see somebody doing it than, read a tutorial, some things. I can be a visual learner, so it's just, I think sometimes you just need to see it done.
100%.
Yeah, so
That's me. Very cool. So that is, I have never heard of that type of composting. Say it again.
Bokashi.
Bokashi.
Bokashi. Yeah. That might be my favorite. I do like worm bins, but if worm bins, you kind of have to be aware of them if you go on a vacation. Especially if you're going on a long vacation, you might have to like tell somebody to feed your worm bin, but Bokashi can just sit there. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Wow, who goes on vacations longer than 2 weeks? I don't go on vacation longer
Not
than
me.
2 weeks. I don't get that kind of time off. But
Yeah.
but I mean I really like the worm bin. You know what I don't like? I don't like the harvesting part.
Yeah.
It's so messy.
That can be messy. So one way to do that, well, there's a couple ways to harvest the worm castings. One, you can get one of the stacking tower type worm bins. And these are supposed to be pre-sorting. I've actually never used them, but I've heard good things where you keep adding new food scraps on the top of the worm bin. You just keep adding layers and the worms kind of travel up as they empty out all the food scraps in the lower bins, and then they just leave behind worm castings, which you can just scoop out.
Down.
Yeah. And then if you just have, like, I just have a basic plastic tote that's ventilated plastic tote.
Right.
If you just feed the worms on one side of the worm bin for a while, a couple weeks before you need to harvest, they start migrating, and then you can kind of scoop out most of the worm castings on the empty side. But there's always some straggler worms you have to pick out. So, yeah.
Always. Yeah, I have a bad setup. I mean, my worm bin is set up just fine, but like my whole harvesting setup is not ideal. So
Yeah.
I put it in the screen and I've got worm castings all over the kitchen floor or whatever, and then I have to clean it up and I gotta go chase worms down, and it's better for me to just do it by myself when no one else is around, because I don't want people to be like, oh my gosh, this worm is horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it in the middle of the night when no one's watching. But I'm so glad to meet a fellow worm person.
Worm bin, yeah.
Some people are kind of grossed out about it. I've had mine since 2018. 6 years. Ooh, 6
Yeah, I think
years.
that's when I started mine too. It's been pretty significant, but they do a good job. It's incredible how they can work through kitchen scraps. They can eat most kitchen scraps, not meat and dairy.
No.
One question I get a lot about the composting worms is, are they invasive, and can you just use like regular worms from your garden? The worms that are used in worm bin are called red wigglers, and they are especially adapted for the composting bin situation. They can handle shallower soil environments. Night crawlers and earthworms need deeper soil, and night crawlers and earthworms, which are the ones you're going to see in your garden, they're not that great at composting food scraps efficiently. And also the red wiggler worms, they kind of start dying off when temperatures go below 55. So they're not going to become an invasive problem in Maine, and they're not the same thing as jumping worms.
No, nope, yeah. Not at all. I have heard about, sorry, y'all. We're gonna talk worms for a minute. I was talking to somebody not too long ago in the last week, I think, who somebody has a worm bin outside.
I have heard of this. There's a unit called a subpod. There's probably other units too. As far as I know, these are buried, or at least partially buried in the soil for insulation. But that's a good option for anybody that doesn't want to deal with creepy crawlies in their house. So,
Or if you live in a warmer climate, maybe.
mhm,
Hmm.
definitely, yeah. But I
Uh,
think there are a couple units that you can use for that, and it's the
that's cool.
dream. Someday I'll have one.
Right. Well, so, and one of the things that I was thinking about when it comes to mealworms, like I already have a worm bin under my kitchen sink. So where am I supposed to put mealworms? Because
They take up some space.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was a lady that that lived in Bucksport. And she was mail ordering me live mealworms. And that was cool. But she said that she had them in her living room. I'm like, no, that's not gonna be in my no.
No.
Worms are cool and all, but not in my living room.
Yeah, I
Or
have
like,
them in my laundry room, which is kind of a little out of the way, but convenient enough. Yeah.
yeah. But like mealworms, I'm just thinking because mealworms like they turn into the
Beetles.
that can
And also
fly,
you can,
right?
I think so. You can also hear mealworms kind of scratching around. So
No. No. uh yeah. I was just trying to like the logistics of it are a little intimidating for me, but I need to figure out how to do it because I can't afford that. I can't afford to just buy them dried. And they're so like dried is so dumb. But
there might be a way to build like an insulated something for your garage for mealworms. I don't know. I think somebody's probably figured out how to online for that. I don't know.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking maybe the basement, but it might be too cold.
Yeah, I think they probably are around the same requirements as the red wigglers, like 55-ish. I don't know. So,
Anyway,
yeah,
uh
something to look into.
hang on just a second for a quick ad break. Are you struggling to manage your personal finances on top of everything else? Say hello to Coach Connor. Get tailored support to finally conquer the financial stress. It's time to take control and pave the way for a brighter financial future. Reach out to Coach Connor at Progress Solutions now and start your transformation. See the link in the show notes for how to reach Coach Connor. So you make your own soap and shampoo and laundry soap, and you are canning what, and you're canning. Are you canning as well? I know you said you do a lot of fermentation.
Yes, I do canning. I have done pressure canning in the past. I'm not actively doing pressure canning. It's not my favorite, but I do water bath canning and I do fermentation. I do dehydrating foods too. Actually just gave a talk on those, but probably my favorite is fermenting and water bath canning because then you can have this shelf stable product, which is good if you're into prepping and survival things. It's, zombie apocalypse, you have your canned goods.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's something that most people can do. Like pressure canning is very specific.
Pressure canning, my problem with it is, as far as I'm aware, pressure canners can't be used on a glass top stove or a gas stove. And I have a glass top stove. You kind of
Right.
need a coil stove for those. So it's
Yeah.
no go for me at this point in time, but I have
Right.
done it.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think you can use it on a glass top. I think it's really risky. And I
Yeah,
don't
it
know
has
that
the
I'm
potential to
willing to
break your stove.
take that risk.
Yeah.
I actually have a pressure canner so I got a pressure canner for my wedding 12 years ago, 12 and a half years ago, and I've never used it. I
Mhm.
actually sold it because I was too scared of it. And then I bought a used one because I was like, darn it, one of these days I'm going to learn how to use it. And I took a class through the University of Maine cooperative extension this past year. So I'm feeling better about it, but I still haven't used it.
Yeah, it's really handy. I find that I'm always making dried beans, and I'm like, I want to get the pressure canner out so I can just make all the dried beans at once and can them and not have to make dried beans every week. Um, so yeah.
So you grow the beans and then you dry them?
No, I don't grow them, but I do get them kind of in bulk, and then I
Gotcha.
usually cook them in a slow cooker, but It'd be just so much easier just to cook them all in batches and then have them just pre-canned and ready to go.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna, yeah, absolutely. That makes so much sense.
My pressure canning goal.
Yeah. I would love to do what I would love to do is like broth and stock and stuff and like just have that because right now my freezer, we have two upright freezers and one of the upright freezers is the door is full of stocks.
Yeah.
So
That
it'd be
would
really
be,
cool. It would really, really, really suck if we lost power.
yeah. The freezing food does have its benefits, but it's not the best survivalist food. It's a little more demanding than some of the other
Yep,
food preservation methods. But
for sure.
yeah.
So that is also a goal of mine, but I'm still scared. I'm not really ready. I want somebody to be there with me.
Yeah, I want to try out freeze drying. I haven't done that. It's like the one I haven't done smoking foods either. Those two methods I want to experiment with hopefully in the near future.
Yeah. There must be people that I know there are people in Maine that have it. Like I wonder if you could just like reach
Like a
out and
freeze dryer.
yeah,
Yeah. I've
say, can I
I've gone to
watch or
some
can I try
events.
it?
Yeah, I've seen people they freeze dry like Skittles and other candies and it puffs them up like popcorn. I'm like, can I just
It
use your
is
freeze dryer?
so weird. It is so
Yeah.
weird. I've tried that.
Yeah.
Um, but I bet that you could like I bet that somebody would like I want to say rent it to you, but I think that they're too big to really move around,
Yeah.
maybe. Because I've seen them, they look like a dryer, like a dry clothes dryer. Um, but I wonder if they would let you test it out. I bet they would.
I'll
Somebody
probably find
locally.
somebody to try out their freeze dryer. I have a nice food dehydrator that I use all the time. I really like that. So for now, that's good enough.
Yeah, if you have, well, you've got a cooperative extension near you, right? Like
I do,
Bangor,
yeah.
maybe.
Yep. hmm
They might have one.
Good idea. The ones that teach the food preservation classes. Yeah. Oh, I'll look into that.
Yeah, because I've seen that there are people that like freeze dry eggs and all kinds of crazy stuff. But
Ice
you're in it for the
cream.
candy. You want to do the
Yeah. To do the science experiments. I'm always doing weird little science experiments that amuse me.
that's fun.
Yeah.
I totally it was very weird. There's a farm near me that that sells it. They call it space candy, and so I got the what did I got? I got taffy, freeze dried taffy, and I got freeze dried Skittles.
Yeah.
I tried them, and it was delicious because I have not had candy in so long. But it was also it like it still sticks to your teeth, and it's like same old thing. And the Skittles were worse than not worse because they stick to your teeth. Like when they are Skittles, they didn't really stick to your teeth.
Oh no, yeah.
But it's just like taffy now. But it was
Isn't
cool.
that fun? Yeah.
Yeah. Uh so let's see. Gardening? Do you do gardening?
I do gardening very often.
Very often.
Yeah, I'm always doing gardening. I only do organic gardening. Um, Recently I've been kind of doing a lot of content on seed starting and specifically cold stratification and winter sowing, which is relevant for native plants, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. Native plants need to be cold stratified to germinate well. So that's kind of this is the right time to be doing that. But I also do food gardening and small space, kind of urban gardening, that sort of thing. And
Oh,
that's where
that's
the food
right.
preservation comes in too. Yeah.
That's right. You just did a post about like send me a note if you want to learn how to do the like bringing in plants, like doing the switcheroo, right? Cold hardening off, was it?
Yeah, I just did some stuff on hardening off and yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, oh, that's my hard part. I can grow them inside, but then it's the bringing them outside that gets me every time.
It's hard because you just want to plant them. It's like you're so excited to move them outside. And also, you've been nursing these plants for a couple of months. It's like, I'm ready to put them outside. But now you have to harden them off over 1 to 2 week span of time. Usually will do the trick. And I'm just always impatient to move them outside. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I have some milkweed seeds cold stratifying outside in milk jugs right now. So it's what I've planted so far this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Because yes, because you were talking about pollinators. That was
Mm.
You do a lot of pollinator planting.
I do. I give some talks on pollinators. I've done stuff with the Trenton Butterfly Garden. They're doing a lot of wonderful things. I've also done some talks at Frenchman Bay Conservancy on pollinators. But I think probably pollinators are my favorite thing to talk about, like hands down, because they're just so important, and their populations are diminishing due to a lot of things. And there's just a lot of people. We could all just do a little bit in our yards, and that just a little bit that we can do would make a huge difference for pollinators. I follow Doug Tallamy and Homegrown National Park, and a lot of his message is like just planting a few pollinator-friendly plants in your yard has a collective effect. If we all did it, would be greater than all the national parks combined,
Right.
because it's creating habitat for these pollinators.
Right. And it's not necessarily like you're saying, not necessarily having a whole garden, but just planting a few to attract them.
Yeah,
to
just
give them
even in
something
an
to
urban
eat.
area,
Yep.
a window box with like some black-eyed Susan or some yarrow, coneflowers. Because a lot of what's affecting pollinators is just their ability to travel distances. There's just habitat fragmentation. So just a couple window boxes makes a difference for them being able to like move from space to space and find different fields to forage in.
Right. There's nothing in between.
Right.
Yeah. That makes sense. And it's true. I think you hear from a lot of people that they're like, oh, that's so sad that the pollinators are dying off, that there are less every year, blah, blah, blah. But like, what are we doing about that? Like, and do you realize that it's actually not just sad, it's serious. Like, this is a serious thing. This is our food that we're talking about.
Definitely. It's definitely a food security issue. And I've heard, and I don't know the statistics on it, but I've heard people say that the threat of pollinators is right on par with climate change. Like we need to be talking about this more because, our food is really tied up in it. And the things that are affecting them are habitat loss, habitat fragmentation, overuse of pesticides, largely from industrialized agriculture, and also climate change is affecting pollinators too. It's affecting their distribution. So anything we can do to help them. And one of the best things you can do is native plants. Native plants are up to 4 times more attractive to pollinators. And they also, I just posted something about turtle heads, which is a native plant in Maine, has like antibacterial or antiviral properties for bees or something. And like, it just strengthens their immune system. It's a native plant. It's just great.
I've never even heard of that. I mean, I guess that makes sense. We're not growing it which is why I haven't heard of it.
It's similar to a snapdragon. I think it's actually in the snapdragon family. It has like an odd little flower shape that kind of looks like a turtle head. So yeah.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah.
So where did you get so smart? Did you go to
Thank you.
Did you study? You studied in college, I assume.
I was an English major in college, but I'm pretty self-taught with the gardening stuff. I've been doing it for a number of years, just kind of researching as I went because I was just expanding my own garden. I ended up just pursuing that to the point that I ended up going to take the master gardening class through the University of Maine. And then I just do this full time, reading gardening content all the time because I'm writing gardening content all the time. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Self-taught. Oh my goodness. That's so cool. I love that some people can just absorb everything and just take all that on. I'm like, it's sort of like in one ear and out the other as much as I want to absorb stuff.
I'm sure I've forgotten many things over the years. But yeah.
Wow. So what am I missing? What am I missing about you that I know there's more. So you moved here from sort of Pennsylvania? You said you grew up in Pennsylvania, but you lived in Massachusetts first. Is that right?
Yes, Pennsylvania by way of Massachusetts. So I also spent some time in South Carolina. But I learned most of my gardening information. I did most of my practice homesteading in Massachusetts, and I just kind of brought it with me. But I grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania, so I've kind of been around it for a long time.
Mm.
Had the chicken experience and all kinds of stuff.
Hmm. Wow. And now you're in Maine. So you said you're near Bar Harbor.
Hmm.
Are you in Trenton?
I'm in Ellsworth.
Okay.
Yeah, but I go to Bar Harbor all the time, and I actually just posted something about forest bathing. The technique of forest bathing. So I met like a Maine guide who does forest bathing. So that was like kind of what I was talking about this week on the blog, and just very interesting. And Maine is a great place to explore that kind of thing. So
Hmm. That I vaguely remember that post today. I'm skimming because I'm working too.
I post a lot too.
But so let's see. But so Pennsylvania, and so you were in Pennsylvania, and I just have to say out loud that you lived in Salem, Massachusetts. So
I
my
did.
cousin lived in Marblehead and now is in Beverly, but you said you lived in Beverly for a year. And then my past guest, Jennifer Joray, lived in Salem as well. So something about Salem and people moving to Massachusetts from Massachusetts to Maine. Mm-mm.
It's the
But
way. I wonder if we crossed paths. I was there for about 8 years. So it was,
8 years?
yeah, I was there for a while.
Like before you moved here? Like,
Yeah, yeah. And I went to college down in Beverly. So
oh, you totally were there at the same time. I'm gonna have to look you
yeah,
guys up. Uh, maybe you lived on the same road or something.
maybe. Yeah, it's a fun town, but Maine is fun too, a different way.
Yeah. How is your community in your area? Like,
In
are
in
they,
Maine,
yeah,
it's good. I do a lot of volunteer stuff with different conservation organizations, so I'm pretty busy with that. I do like some guided hikes and help out with those, and I meet cool people that are very kind of like-minded and into sustainability things. So I'm also like I'm in the Master Gardener community, so I have some gardener friends. We talk plants a lot.
that's awesome. I love that. And it's so cool when you're in a specific sort of niche. The people that you meet are going to be like-minded, obviously, but you get to hang out and kind of follow paths, which is it's just really fun.
Yeah, definitely. That's a lot of people doing cool stuff. And I did my so I just got the Master Gardening certificate in November, so I'm pretty new to it. But I did a lot of my volunteer. You have to do 40 volunteer hours. I did that with the Native Gardens of Blue Hill, so they do native plants. Great resource.
Hmm, awesome. I'm trying to think of all the people. I've met so many people now that I'm like, oh, I gotta introduce you to Hannah. She's in Blue Hill.
Yeah.
But wow. So tell me something that I don't know about you. I mean, I don't know a lot of things about you, but the things that like
Something you don't know. Well, I I I also do fiction writing. So we kind of do fiction and poetry, and I'm just I like doing writing. I've been trying to do writing my whole life, so it's just kind of its own little beast. But
awesome.
yeah, in my spare time, I kind of do that, do hiking and kind of getting out and seeing nature. And I want to do some more like wildlife related content coming up on the blogs. I've been doing a bird series, which people seem to like. So we're gonna continue that.
Oh my gosh, the birders in Maine are ooh,
Down East Audubon, yeah.
we got the birders. I'm on the Maine Birds Facebook page. It's very active.
Yeah, I just went on a birding hike and just the people that go on there, they're just so full of information about the different birds. I was learning about harlequin ducks and just like just random facts about these harlequin ducks, how they eat barnacles. I'm just like,
Oh my
they
God.
have more broken bones than any other animal on the planet, is what the guide was saying, because they just like live in like the white waters of
Oh my
rivers and then
gosh.
white waters of crashing like ocean on the rocks on the shore. It's just like the hard life of a harlequin duck.
Man, that's rough.
Mhm. Yeah, but
Huh. And Harlequin ducks are really pretty too, right? They have like
they are
sort of stripy.
brown and black and white and
Yeah,
look like a little harlequin. But I love the little random nature facts and stuff. I collect them.
that's really interesting. Uh, yeah, and very specific about the breed. Huh.
Yeah, but that's the kind of things you get when you go out with birders. You just random facts.
I love that. I mean, I'm really enjoying the bird page because I'm a new birder. I'm actually afraid of birds, but except for my chickens.
Except for the chicken. Oh, they're little raptors. They're kind of scary.
I'm not. I was just gonna say I'm a little bit afraid of my chickens too. They're not super
Yeah.
friendly, but um,
Uh,
I just give them worms and they're good. Uh,
pay the chicken toll tax.
I know. I was just talking. I've got these little. I have these two little silky roosters, and they're just tiny and goofy, and they like attack my feet every single day. And I'm like, why are you guys mad at me? Like, I'm literally the one that gives you the treats and makes
They
sure
have
that you have
huge
water and
personalities.
food, and yeah, like
I had
why don't you like me?
I know. I had Silkies growing up, two roosters, and they would always attack me as a kid. But then my parents would come outside and they would like run the other way because they were like, no, we weren't doing anything.
Right. And at the same time, you're like, you're tiny. Like,
Yeah.
you're not scary, but why are you doing that?
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I'm not like afraid of them, but I'm not gonna like, put my hands in their face. But I am afraid of birds. But I really I love watching them. I've got so many birds in my yard. In fact, I this morning I posted that I was I took some video of like I must have been like 30 robins. And I've never seen robins in the winter. I've never noticed that. I always thought that they were like the first sign of spring, but there were a whole crap ton of robins eating crab apples.
That's what I thought too. But somebody was just saying that they're not quite as associated with spring around the coast. I don't know. I don't know if that's a climate change thing but as the
Right?
temperature's more moderated around the coast, you're more likely to see robins in winter. I see them here too. So,
Hmm.
and I see ravens a lot, which is, I never saw ravens before moving to Maine, but it's a couple that hang out in the yard.
Wow. I don't know that I've ever seen a raven. Uh, I don't know that I could really tell the difference between a raven and a crow.
Ravens croak and crows caw. So if you pay attention to them, they have a very weird sound that they make. It's much more guttural. So, yeah.
Okay. I will ask them to talk. What do you have to say, Mr. Bird? Um, but yeah, and I've got all the feeders. We don't have a finch feeder because our finches eat birdseed. I don't know why people give them the whatever.
The thistle, yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
eat
they're not that
birdseed.
picky.
No, I don't need to buy
I
stuff.
They like the sumac that's in the yard here, so they just go after that.
Right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but we've had the juncos lately, and I love watching the juncos. They're super cute,
They are just so plump.
fat little bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so birds, and so I just wanted to I was just looking at your guest form to remind myself because I know one of the I I ask everyone what is the message that you want people to leave with, and I just don't want to leave without sharing that message. So you had said that even small changes in the way that we garden, homestead, and how we keep our homes can make a big difference for pollinators, wildlife, and the natural world around us. And that, of course, that obviously will affect that that benefits us. All of that benefits us.
Yes, definitely.
So
I think that it's really easy to get kind of discouraged when you're listening to the news, feeling like there's just too much to do. But I think just realizing that those small impacts that we can do have a cumulative effect that is quite large. And whether that is composting or planting a few native plants or just being more conscious about where we're spending our money, it all stacks up. And I think that's a way to not feel overwhelmed by it. It's just kind of like, what can I do today? Just one thing today that's like a step in that direction. And it's also not just sustainability, but also self-sufficiency is something that's very important to me, and just like empowering people to feel like they do have the ability to control where their food comes from, have food security by learning like homesteading skills that our grandparents knew how to do that we've forgotten how to do, like canning. I think people get really intimidated by canning, but it is an accessible thing, and it is a way to save a lot of money learning how to do these things that
right.
can be in your wheelhouse and aren't that hard to learn.
Right. Well, I think that's also a really that's a really big seller for the water bath canner, because you don't have to have a water bath canner to do water bath canning. You can just have a
Right.
big pot
Big
and
stock pot.
right. And so anyone can do that. You don't have to buy special equipment. But to be able to preserve food.
Yeah. And even like easier than that, if you're just starting off with food preserving, I recommend trying out just pickling. There's a lot of confusion about what canning, pickling, and fermenting is, but you can just do so. Pickling versus fermenting. Pickling uses a vinegar base, and fermenting uses a saltwater brine. You can just make a pickle right in your fridge. You don't ever have to can it. Canning just makes it self-stable, but you can preserve like an excess of cucumbers from your garden just with pickling with a vinegar base, a quick pickle. So I think that's the best way to get into food preservation. That or hang drying herbs like rosemary and lavender, just kind of dehydrating your own stuff without any equipment.
They're the gateway.
Yes. And then you'll get sucked in. You're like, now I need a food dehydrator because I want to do different things. I want to make fruit leather and jerky. And but yeah, hang drying some herbs and
Right.
pickling some stuff in your fridge.
Right. And then just look out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
That's how I started.
I'm all about the pickles. And
Yeah.
I actually don't like fermented foods. I
It
feel
is an
bad.
acquired taste.
I feel bad saying that, and I want so badly to, but I just something about it does not agree with me. But and there's also the like scraping the mold off the top that I'm not okay with.
Yeah. Mold often occurs when you have to have like a little bit of brine on top. So if everything is concealed under the brine, you're less likely to get mold. This fermentation rates come in handy there. But I think I like fermenting because it's a more creative food preservation process than some of the other ones. Like you really can't mess around with canning recipes. You need to get the ratios right because of food safety. But fermenting, you can kind of change up some of the ingredients as long as everything's below the brine and you're using the right balance of salt to water. You can kind of make a spicy sauerkraut or make a kimchi with different, vegetables thrown in or something. It's totally yours.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have so much respect for people that can do that, and and it's supposed to be so good for you. And I know I'm missing out by not doing it, but I just can't. I tried.
Yeah. It's not for everybody.
Unfortunately, but I make jam.
Jam is fun.
and I can tomatoes and stuff when I get tomatoes.
The first time I made jam, I made grape jam, and it was fun, but the amount of grapes that I put in for the quantity of jam that I got, it was amazing that it could boil down that much.
And if they're seeded grapes, the amount of work that goes into it, you're like,
yes.
This is the best jam I've ever had, and I'm never doing it again.
Yeah, it probably wasn't the best jam recipe for me to start out with.
For sure.
If somebody's into that, I recommend jellies first. Jellies are way easier than jams, and they take less ingredients. But I do like jams.
I love jam. I would recommend raspberries.
Ooh.
Raspberry jam.
It's a good one.
Because it always gels, and it is easy. But
I made a tomato jam one time.
So
That was
good.
exciting. Yeah.
So good. It was not what I expected at all.
No,
So good
I
though.
think that might have been my favorite jam ever.
Yeah. Crabapple for me was like crabapple jelly was like your grape jam experience.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't done crab apples.
I want so badly. We have two crabapple trees and they make so many crab apples. I'm like, every year when they start to fall off the trees, I'm like, I gotta pick those. I gotta do something. I'm like, Amy, remember when you made crabapple jelly? Do you remember how miserable you were? How much work that was? But
Yeah.
I hate wasting them.
Yeah.
I hate letting them go to waste. But now, like, we didn't use those crab apples, and now the robins are going to town on them. So there,
Well, that's
I did it
good.
for the robins.
Win-win.
There you go, robins. I did you a favor.
Yeah.
But so, Lauren, if when I say the word sustainability, I know you've really talked about that a lot, and obviously it's what you do all the time. But like when I say the word sustainability, what does that mean to you?
I think it means just being conscious of your everyday actions and just thinking ahead to the future for like, 10, 20 years, 100 years in the future, but not just for humans, but also for plants and animals and like just kind of being conscious of like how much we're taking and how much we're giving back and doing things that are conscious of like keep in mind that humans are part of an ecosystem, not necessarily above it or beyond it. We are a part of it, and then acting in such a way that kind of is in alignment with that, that we are, you know, as the word that people often use is stewards of, plants and animals. And I don't know if I like that word, but we are, interlinked with them and just being conscious of that.
Yeah, we have been sucky stewards if we are stewards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I have to say, like, one of the things that drew me to you is that so many of your messages are so similar to what I'm like aiming for with the podcast. Like when you were saying, we all can just be doing something and just be mindful of what we're doing and do some composting or recycling or learn how to take care of our animals or our food or lawns and plant some pollinator flowers. It doesn't have to be this huge thing, but if everyone is doing something, it's all going to make a difference. And that's it doesn't have to be overwhelming. And that's kind of
Absolutely.
my message as well. And so I'm like, I need to have her share it, because then if two people are saying it, two people or more, then it's just more meaningful.
Yeah.
And it's probably way better said by someone other than me, but that's very much my message as well. Do you
Yeah.
know what she's saying?
We have more power in say than we think that we do. And just the little daily things that we do are basically us voting with our dollar and our time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, but so Lauren, if people are wanting to learn more from you or follow you and see all your cool posts, where can they find you?
Well, the number one place would be my blog, zerowastehomestead.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My Instagram is the zero waste homestead, all one word. Twitter is Zero Homestead, and Facebook is just Zero Waste Homestead. I'm also on YouTube and a little bit on TikTok, but I'm most active on those three. So I hope people come and join. And I also have a community on Facebook, Zero Waste Homesteading, where people can kind of share their own, in a group, their own gardening experiences and sustainability experiences.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very cool. So everyone's learning from each other.
Yeah.
Fun. And so what's your YouTube? I know it's a newer thing, but what is the
It's Zero Waste Homestead.
Okay.
There's actually two Zero Waste Homesteads on YouTube, but I have my website linked and I have my little logo. So just, the one is me.
So you can link to it from your website.
Yes. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And I will have all that information on the show notes.
Yay.
But thank you so much, Lauren. Oh my gosh, this has been so amazing. I've been following you for a long time, and I'm like Man, one of these days I gotta get her on the podcast because her message is so important and it's just so good. So I'm glad that I finally just like, come on the podcast, okay? Let's do it already.
Yeah, I love your content too, and I'm so happy you had me on. It's been great. I've been looking forward to this. So
And this is Lauren's first podcast.
yeah.
Maine and
Same.
Maine.
Yeah.
And if you're in the Bar Harbor area, just look Lauren up because
Yeah.
definitely be in touch because I'm sure she could show you some stuff.
I do have some classes coming up at the Adult Education Center in Ellsworth. I have a fermentation class coming up and some pollinator garden classes in April. So that's right on the Adult Education Ellsworth website.
Very cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So, thank you again. Did we forget to mention anything? Anything I want to?
We talked about worms. We talked about chickens. I think we covered a number of things. No, I think we're
Anything
good.
that you wanted to shout out before we?
I'll just plant more native plants. If there's one thing you can do for pollinators, it's that and get away from pesticides in your garden if you can. So yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So I will, I'll chat with you guys next time, but, Lauren, look her up and learn from Lauren.
Yeah, thank
Go
you.
Nice Homestead. All right. Thank you. I just want to take a second to thank my guest again for speaking with me and sharing such great information. I love having these conversations with folks. I also want to thank Buzzsprout for hosting the podcast, for Jane Bolduck and her music genius, for Becca Coffron and her award-winning artwork. And thank you for listening. I appreciate that so much. Please check out the show notes for any links and extra information. And if you would like to follow my guest and find out more about them, I'm sure they would love the follow. And if you don't mind leaving a rating or review wherever you're listening, and just help to get this podcast in front of new eyes, that would be amazing. I would really love that. And feel free to reach out to me on the socials and let me know what you're thinking. And if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please let me know that. I would love to have a conversation with you about sustainability. All right. Thank you again. I hope you have a great rest of the week.
There'll come a day, my mama told me, when I find love to have and hold me, a heart that's strong and so sincere. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? Oh, tell me, how do I get there from here? 'Cause here and now I'm so far down that mercy's bound to find me. We'll find a way to soothe the sickness. We'll heal the hate with sweet forgiveness. Wages of war will disappear. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? I wonder, how do I get there from here? Yeah, 'cause here now I'm so far down and mercy's bound to find me. has finally found me. Well, there'll be music, ooh, and good friends around me, yeah, yeah. And I'll just smile through happy tears and wonder